Welcome to Beyond Sight, a BISM podcast. I'm your host, Qualik Ford, and I am ready to take you on this journey through discovering the stories, the impact, and the empowerment that is found within our blind community here at BISM and beyond. This podcast is sponsored by donors like you, listeners like you, so subscribe, like the podcast, and continue to join me on this journey. Let's jump right in. Hello! Happy New Year's, everyone, and welcome back to the Beyond Sight BISM podcast. I'm your host, Qualik Ford, and today we have three wonderful guests, and I'm super excited to get the opportunity to sit down with them and talk to them about BISM. So first things first, let's go to two people who I have the honor of being their teacher and working with them and seeing them grow. Dirk, let's start with you.
Hey, thanks, Q. Thanks for that great introduction, and thanks for having us on here.
Of course. So, Dirk, how long have you been at BISM?
I started June 10th, so it's a little over 6 months now.
Awesome. And what program are you attending?
I'm doing the adult core program, so it's residential, so we stay in the apartments and come to school every day and learn skills, IL, woodshop, travel, Braille, and tech.
Okay. Good.
Oh, and career seminars and blind philosophy discussions.
Awesome. And we'll get into all of that in a second. Next, we have Kiara.
Hi, Q. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm peachy.
Oh, peachy. I love it. So, Kiara, how long have you been at BISM?
I have been here for 3 months now.
Awesome. And you're also a part of the core program?
Yes, indeed.
Does Dirk annoy you or?
No, not too much.
Oh, okay, good.
Too much, that's good.
And
try harder.
And next we have a guest that really could have her own podcast. She is just a wonderful leader within our blind community and here at BISM. Sue, how are you doing?
I'm doing really great.
Sue, how are you involved with BISM?
Currently, I'm a member of the Board of Trustees. Previously, I've had other contacts with BISM as the director of the Office of Blindness and Vision Services at Doors, and I was also a consultant here at BISM in the ITR program for a few years.
That's awesome. So really getting the opportunity with this episode to bridge that gap, right? Talk about not only the student perspective of being in one of our programs, in particular our adult program, but also from someone that has both worked outside of BISM and kind of worked in collaboration with, but also someone who's now on our board of trustees and continues to help us with the work we're doing every day. So, Dirk, you got into it a little bit. You talked about core being a residential program and how you're learning these individual skills. So let's split it between you and Kiara. Tell us, what's your favorite classes and what are you learning in those classes?
I think my favorite class ended up being orientation and mobility. I really enjoyed wood class and I needed tech more than anything else, but that's been the most helpful class has been the tech, I think.
Okay. And what were you doing in cane travel?
In cane travel, we first started off by just making sure we're using proper cane techniques, learning different strategies, the tap, the slide, shorelining things, different strategies on how to use it. And then it eventually moved into learning the address system and how to be able to look at an address and already be able to know just by looking at the address what side of the street it'll be on and roughly where it'll be on that block just based on the number. So it's really helped me to be able to rely on my own problem-solving skills and just instead of just relying on a phone to tell you that you're on this street or that street, because phones can be useful, but every once in a while they'll tell you you're on a street that you're actually not on or at an address that you're not at. So it's useful to have all the other skills to do it on your own. Yeah.
And then, Kiara, what are your favorite classes and what's some things you've learned?
All of them are my favorite classes.
No,
my favorite class is Braille. Ever since I was a little girl, I love writing my name on things. Ask my mom in the underside of her table. But I loved stationery and pens and markers and all of that other stuff. And I kind of lost that a little bit when I lost my vision. And so now getting to a point where I can put labels on things and I can identify stuff and I can write books and things like that. I'm really having a time in Braille. I knew the alphabet before I got here. So I just started working on words and then I got to sentences. So now I'm on typing with a Braille writer and a slate and stylus. I'm working on money too.
Hey, money.
Yeah. Oh, it's about to go down with this money.
Dirk, you mentioned woodshop and sort of confidence building activities. When it comes to the woodshop, learning how to build and design different projects, and really it's a confidence thing, giving you the opportunity to do an activity that you may not have thought you were able to do. And a lot of what we do in core is that idea of developing your understanding of your capabilities and expanding it, making sure that you recognize that where you thought you might be able to go, you can go even farther. Technology is, you said it, Dirk, is super important. Technology is ever evolving and growing. And so being able to grasp that and to understand like how to utilize it effectively is important. Sue, you worked in Office of Blindness Services as a director. Tell us about that role and how it's important to the programs that we're doing here at BISM and in particular with CORE.
Sure. As the director of the Office of Blindness and Vision Services, one of the responsibilities is to provide oversight for the state grant to BISM, and the state grant is for direct services. So there's that responsibility. But there's also promoting BISM as a resource of choice. DOORS is the agency that supports students coming to BISM's programs, and it provides funding in addition to the state grant. So making sure that BISM is competitive and has the best opportunities for our students in state to get the kinds of services and supports that they need.
That's awesome. Being in that role and making sure that you're helping blind consumers get to where they need to be independent and to be successful. What is the mission of DOORS? Like, why would the government have grants for students to attend a program like this? And why does DOORS have that oversight?
There was once a time that I could quote the exact mission word for word. I don't remember it anymore. But the basic mission of DOORS is to support individuals with disabilities in obtaining the skills to be able to either return to work, transition from school to work, or we also do provide some senior services to blind seniors. So it aligns with the services at BISM in many ways. We worked in tandem with BISM years ago to develop many of the youth programs that are now entrenched in BISM, like Glide. And DOORS referred students for the core program and also used BISM services for a variety of home services or specialized services. So it was a responsibility to provide the best services for individuals, again, that are transitioning from school to work or returning to work because of a disability or developing independent living skills.
Dirk and Kiara, as consumers, how did your experience of being connected to DOORS and DOORS connecting you to BISM play out? And do you feel that your life would be different now if you hadn't come to training?
Yeah, so for me personally, I used to live in Maine up until right during COVID when I worked in Maine. When I moved here in 2020, my wife was the breadwinner, and so now I found myself being the stay-at-home parent, which was a new role for me. Usually I was the breadwinner, but she had the knowledge and the skills and the job, and I didn't go to college, so I had no job skills other than like working in factories or working in kitchens, kind of what I call it grunt work. I don't know what the actual like blue collar stuff. So when I came out here, they wanted to get me into BISM. I first heard about it when I first moved out here, and I was trying to get in as quickly as I could because I was hoping to do it real quick before the baby was born. Didn't work out that way. Once I finally did get here, I thought I was basically going to be just working in a factory, getting my skills up, and then ending up in one of the factories around here that are run by blind people. But after being here just for a few months, I realized that there's a lot more we can do with the skills you guys are teaching us, and I've decided to go into orientation and mobility.
Woo, let's go.
So that's so it's been life changing for me because otherwise I'd still be working in kitchens chopping onions right now. Which there's nothing wrong with that, but as a 40-year-old guy trying to wash dishes with a bunch of kids in the kitchen, it wasn't exactly the life I wanted. But you guys have helped me find a better way.
So for me, I was in panic mode. I lost my vision about 2.5 years ago, and I was working full time, living on my own. Don't have any spouses or any children. So I was just like, what am I supposed to do? And so when I got in contact with Doors, they scheduled me for some O&M and some IL training, but I need something more specialized. I think I can word it that way. And so they told me about BISM, and I came here for my 2-hour tour, and I was like, oh yeah, this is where I need to be. Like, I need to get back into the workforce. I want to be independent. I don't want to live with anybody. I need to be here. I had multiple conversations with my counselor. Like, I was pressing down. Like, BISM is the place for me. And I technically call it Bollage. That's how I explained it to my family. So like blind college. Yeah. So it's Bollage. So yeah, I was pressing down. I was like, I need to be in Bollage. Like, I need these skills. So as soon as I got here, I kind of wanted to fully immerse myself. Like, I wanted to get everything that I could, and I see the benefit of it. So I wasn't cooking for myself. I wasn't going out at night. I wasn't going out alone. And now I'm making meals. I'm traveling alone. I'm exploring new things. I have a little bit more confidence when I'm doing things. My perspective has been changed on the way that blind people navigate the world and how they just overcome in general. So, yeah.
Yeah. And that's important. You talked about that opportunity to be in an environment that's immersive. And I think Bollage is, in a lot of ways, a good connector because, you go to college, you're like, okay, I'm setting up to put myself in the best position possible, right? And there's that residential aspect that Dirk talked about, right? Coming in, we have apartments downtown where you're staying at and you're learning how to apply the skills not only in a classroom environment, but in an environment that's your home. When I worked as the residential manager and bringing in and moving in the students, that's my first thing I say to you is, hey, this is your home. And we want you to see this as your home because you're going to be here for 9 to 12 months. You're going to be fully immersed. You're going to see all your roommates every day. And so it's going to be your home while you're here. And so being able to apply those skills in both areas means that when you leave and you go out into the real world and you have your own home, it's going to become natural. And that's what's most important, is that the skills that you're learning and you're developing become natural. Sue, what drove you? I mean, you become the director of this program where you're at the forefront of changing the lives of blind people. And that's a lot of responsibility. And honestly, a lot of people may not think of that as a career path. And so what led you down that path?
That's a very interesting question. I actually started working for Doors in one of their other programs right out of college. So I had been with Doors for many years, and at the time that the Office of Blindness and Vision Services was created in 2004, I was director of what is now the Workforce and Technology Center. As you may or may not know, I am blind, and so I became very involved in helping to create and define what was needed in developing this new program. The Assistant State Superintendent and I were meeting with someone else from Client Services, and he said to me, well, of course, you'll be the director. And I was like, okay. Okay. And I tell the story, which I'll share here. When I first graduated college many, many, many years ago, I applied to Doors to be a counselor for the blind in my home county of Montgomery County. I was turned down because I didn't drive. Of course, I don't drive because I'm blind. And then many years later, I became the director of the separate program and hired priority given to blind counselors, and I was able to hire a blind counselor in Montgomery County, the position I had applied for many years prior.
Sue, you're telling me that a blind person should be making decisions about where blind people need help at and where we need to go as a society?
what?
Absolutely. And that was the basis of creating a specialized office within Doors. Prior to the creation of OBVS, there were 2 specialized caseloads, one in Baltimore City and one in Montgomery County. But because of the population, the other caseloads were mixed caseloads. And it was felt very strongly that blind people, or people that at least have special training in blindness, should be assisting. Doors shouldn't be making decisions for people. They should be partnering with the consumer, educating the consumer on what their options are. And they should have the training to make the best recommendations. So it's a partnership with the consumer. And absolutely, I think it was evident that we had specialized training. And at one time, we had a large number of blind counselors. I'm not sure how many they have now. I retired in 2016.
That sentiment is hugely important. That is one of the reasons that we have this podcast, right? The idea that blind people have to be at the forefront of decisions, especially the decisions that are being made about us, because they're decisions that affect us. If you have been listening to this podcast, you would know this is about the time that I have to make a plug to another podcast. And so if you weren't prepared for that, I do not know yet how to help you, but I'll get you there. I will get you there, I promise. So the plug is that when talking to Dr. Goss, or Mike, as he will grumble at me about once he hears this, that's it, right? Putting blind people at the forefront of decisions that we're making here at BISM, but that has to happen statewide. That has to happen nationwide. We talked about our connection with the National Federation of the Blind, right? That idea of working with blind people to change the lives of blind people is super important and integral. And Kiara and Dirk, you guys get to experience being helped by other blind people every day. How does that manifest?
Yeah, so the first time I ever had an orientation mobility instructor, they were fully sighted, which, and I'm not trying to bag on COMs or fully sighted orientation mobility, but having someone teach you how to utilize your vision the way it is that day. And then even when I asked, I said, well, what happens when I can't see the crosswalk to go through it? Do you have any other techniques? Because where I live, like the crosswalks, I guess it's everywhere, but a lot of the bumps would lead you out at a 45-degree angle if you followed them straight out, and you would be walking across the intersection in the worst possible way. And when I asked her about it, I said, well, what happens if next year I can't see that? She said, well, you just call back up and just get more training.
Right.
And so, which just seems very counterproductive to keep having to relearn how to live every few months. And so when I came here, I had Mendoza, who's the O&M, and he's totally blind. And as well as he moved around, I could have sworn the first month I was here that he had at least some vision. And it wasn't until like a month later that he's like, I can't see anything. And I'm like, wow. So so people who are totally blind really can navigate and go wherever they want and do what they want. But yeah, it's important to be able to come to a facility like this where we can practice our non-visual skills and show the world that blind people are fully capable of doing anything we want as long as we have the proper training to do it.
Getting to be around people who are experiencing or have experienced what you're going through is a game changer. I think that they provide a lot of hope, a lot of confidence. They offer advice, things that you really wouldn't be able to find at I don't want to talk bad about it either, Dirk. Like the sighted, it's just different. Like when someone can really relate, they can really break it down, they can really help you understand, they can understand your thought process or where you could be scared. If I tell someone that's sighted, it's like, I'm afraid of microwaves. And they're like, why are you afraid of microwaves? Somebody blind could possibly be like, okay, I understand. I got my finger jabbed in there one day. I, didn't know it was aluminum foil on it. So I blew up the microwave. Like there are certain instances where I don't even have to explain myself. And that is very comforting as I'm trying to learn. I see all of you doing so many different things. I think everybody at BISM has like 5 different job titles. And so it's like, it gives me like this great hope, like I'll be able to get back to a point where I feel comfortable enough to take care of myself, to be independent, and I can explore and do more things like being on a podcast. Like Look at me, I'm on a podcast.
Look at me now, mama.
Exactly. Like, mama, I made it. I know we don't like to always be the beacon of hope for people or the inspiration they come up to. It's like, you're doing so much, but you all are really that for me because I didn't have that perspective before I got here. I'm learning so much, but I'm also building a community. I'm seeing so many different sides of you. I'm about to cry. And I don't know. I want to, when I grow up, I want to be like y'all.
You speak to a point that when I started working at BISM, I immediately resonated with the idea that all of our instructors are blind. And as you said, it's nothing about the capability of, someone who's sighted to teach. I think it's really that understanding. Even when we talk to instructors who are sighted, we're saying, hey, make sure that you're connecting your students with blind role models, blind peers, getting them involved in the blind movement. Because realistically speaking, we all look for community. We are all looking to grow alongside people who can understand our struggles, who can understand our history, who can understand our culture. And then that's important. And you get that. And like you said, the upward mobility, this is another plug that we kind of talked about in the first episode of the podcast that happens throughout BISM internally with our staff, but also with our students, right? Our goal is to push our students to become the next great thing, whether that's running their own company, whether that's becoming a teacher, whether that's even coming back here and holding some sort of position. We look to empower our people. And on that note, because you were talking about your mom, Kiara, it's time to spill the tea.
Oh, gosh.
Yes, it is time. So this segment is where I will ask you a question. It's random, it's wacky, it's crazy. Be prepared. So the question of the podcast is, what is the silliest New Year's resolution you've ever made? And if you don't do New Year's resolutions, what's the silliest promise to yourself you've ever made?
I'm meeting Beyonce. And especially now that I'm blind, I'm in her DMs all the time. Like, Beyonce, please, I need to be on stage so I can feel the dance moves, please. But yeah, I'm meeting Giselle. I'm meeting her.
All right. All right. What about you, Dirk?
Boy, the only thing that really comes to mind is I had my heart broken right around the holidays, 10 years ago or more. Mm-hmm. And I swore I was going to be a single fisherman, lobsterman, and die an old man on the sea. And I made it 5 years without going on a date, but,
And now you're married.
Now I'm married with three children, and it's like...
What about you, Sue?
I'm sure that in my youth I had very similar promises to myself. I was going to meet Herman's Hermits because I'm really old.
All right, so I will tell you guys my silly promise that I still have to this day is that I will have a collection of life-size Hot Wheels. Okay, I know what you're thinking. Are you saying you want a car collection? No. They will not move like with an engine, but like they will be pushed. They will be.
Or like Fred Flintstone with your feet hanging out the bottom, like with the.
When you say life size, you mean actual car size.
Yes, but they will be the most iconic Hot Wheels that have ever been.
Put them?
Listen,
wherever.
I'm working. Details.
I'm working on it, okay?
Because as a person who grew up with a brother who loved Hot Wheels, it's like 50 million of them, and you had to store them in the little tote things, and they had them lined up on the wall.
I'm gonna have my own life-size tote thing. Listen, I believe in you. I'm gonna get a track. Like I'm gonna have, with the big tracks that go like loop-de-loop, and then and
the little car garage we can get them washed.
Follow-up question. How are you going to push it up the loop-de-loop, Q?
Look. Look, you're asking a lot of questions.
Okay, all right.
You're
I'm
asking-
sorry.
That was spill the tea.
We know we just spilled the tea, so here's some more tea for you.
Hey, beer lovers, raise a glass and join us for a great cause at the second annual BISM on Tap event, featuring Blind Spot Beer. Good brews for a great cause. It's happening Saturday, March 29th, 2025, from 12 to 4 p.m. at Checker Spot Brewing Company in Baltimore. Enjoy an unforgettable day of locally crafted brews, live music, delicious food, and exciting raffles, all while supporting opportunities for blind individuals. If you want to learn more, head to BISM.org, BISM.org, or check out our BISM social media pages. Can't wait to see you there. So, Sue, you said that after you were the director, you left and at some point became a consultant to BISM. What did that look like, and why did you decide that you wanted to come and work even more with BISM? Like, what drew you in?
When I retired, I knew I still wanted to work part-time, and I had conversations with the previous president and thought that I really wanted to have some direct contact with individuals, because as the director, of course, I only dealt with people when there were huge problems. And I didn't get the joy of a lot of successes. And I really wanted to help enhance the career counseling part of the program, career education, because actually my master's degree is in career counseling, and my practicum was in doing career counseling with blind students at Towson. And so I was like, I really want to go back to that. That was the most fun I ever had. And when I was here, I worked closely with people, like Andy, and we developed the RAP program when I was here. And that was a really important program because there are a lot of people who don't have the ability to come for 9 months to be a residential student, and they really need to get to work, but they really didn't have their life in order to work. And what we did with RAP was we spent a lot of time on making sure you had the basics to go to work. Do you have an ability to get up, get dressed, make breakfast, have transportation? Just all the very, very basic things that you need in order to be successful in seeking a job and maintaining a job. So I think the RAP program was the culmination of my time here. I also got to work with a lot of students just on some of their doors problems, on some of their social security problems because of my different experiences. So I did get the opportunity to work one-on-one with a lot of the core students at that time.
That's important because there are so many blind people that want a job, that want to be employed, and there needs to be more and more programs to help that. And to know that you were integral in making sure that those programs were developed and being able to do that here at BISM is super important to me because I just love seeing my people be successful. Like, I'm going to be real with y'all for a second. Like, I love it. I love to hear that there's another person that's ready to work, that's getting a job. It's just, it's monumental. When someone's like, I got my first paycheck, it's monumental because they are able to be the productive member of society that they want to be. And I think that's the big thing is that like there's the need and the yearning and the want to be successful. And so we need to make sure that as a society that we're putting energy toward making that happen. And going back to Kiara, you talked about that emotional sort of awakening you had when coming to the program. Do you feel that now that you feel comfortable or sort of gaining comfortability with your blindness, that it's going to make it easier to then put all the other skills together?
Of course. I think that's why they integrate confidence building into the core program, because they understand how monumental it is for you to have that confidence when you're doing Braille, when you're doing travel. Because travel, oh my God. It still makes me nervous. I'm getting there with travel, but it's so important to know that, you have to trust your cane, that you have to trust your ears, that you can do this, that you can become what you want to become. So I think it's very important.
Dirk, what about you?
This program has been instrumental in helping me gain skills and confidence, networking. Like the job seminars is what I've been getting probably the most out of lately. Learning how to network, how to come up with an elevator pitch. These are things I never really had to think about in the kind of jobs I was applying for. So being able to know that I have a whole crew of blind people who have gone through all this before and have kind of gone through all the bumps and bruises of it. Like, I feel like each time you guys sit down and rethink your things, I think you're smoothing the road out even a little more, you know what I mean? And making the road to success a little bit, not more accessible because you're already doing, but you don't be just smoother ride, you know what I mean? Like, there's less bumps in the road each time you guys update your policies or your way of teaching or different strategies. But yeah, I think that, this place has been seriously a game changer for me and helping me realize I can do a lot more than just chop vegetables and wash dishes.
Yeah. Dirk, can I tell a funny story about you? So I worked within the core program and I was doing some of those job readiness projects with Dirk and Kiara. And one day I'm sitting and Dirk is a hard worker. Like the beauty of working with Dirk is you're like, Dirk, go do this. And he's like, all right, I'm off. And it's great. I see an email come through and it's Dirk was sending out an email I had asked him to send out to find out more information about something he was interested in. And all I see is like Yoga Boat 79 and I'm like, what is Yoga Boat? And I was like, maybe this is spam. And then I saw at the end, I see, sincerely, Dirk, and I remember being like, well, there it is.
There it is.
And then, so I called Dirk, and he goes, yeah.
So yeah, like I told you, I'm like, yeah, I need a big boy email. I said, this is only the second email I've ever had. I said, my first one was even worse. I won't tell you what that was because I made that when I was 15. But so I actually had to get a friend. He's like, what do you want to call your email? And I'm like, I have no idea. This is the second email I'd ever made, right? I was like, I don't know what to call it. And he goes, well, you work on a boat and you do yoga in between strings out there while you're on the boat. So he's like, let's just call it boat yoga. And then he threw a couple numbers in there of my two favorite hockey players, and that's where that came from. Yeah. But yeah, I still need to get that big boy email. I've made it, but I don't know how to connect it to my Outlook yet. So
we got you.
That's the next challenge.
There it is. But, that's the thing, right? Like having those real conversations. Hey, need a big boy email. And him being like, okay, got it. Let's do it. And then, like that step-by-step process of working through it. And I think going, back to Sue, like that's some of the stuff that you were doing with rap, making sure that people just know that's what's expected, is that you have to have a professional email, that understanding professional writing, even if it's just like an entry-level overview, just making sure that we're getting into the weeds. So, Sue, you are now on the board of trustees. What does that mean? Why is that important? And what do they do? What do you do?
For me, it meant getting back connected with the blind community in Maryland. I had actually moved out of state for a few years between the time I was a consultant at BISM and the time I came back last year. And I was approached and I was like, yes, I really want to get back involved. And for me, I've jumped in with both feet, and I'm chairing a committee that is responsible for the governance and nomination of board members. So I'm involved with finding new we're all responsible for recommending new board members. I'm working with Tom Cohn on orientation for our adjunct board, which is where we bring in potential board members and have them participate in a non-voting way to learn more about BISM. And I'm looking forward to working on the strategic planning goals that have been outlined by the senior management and making, one BISM. I think that's a wonderful goal and strategy. And looking at where we can continue to grow and serve more people. BISM is very well established and known in the Baltimore and Salisbury areas, but there are many, many blind people that need services throughout the state, and we need to find ways to better serve them.
I always love hearing One BISM. I talked about this on the episode with Dr. Goss, and I think even a little bit with the episode with Tom and Laura and Gojo and Perel, just that idea that we are moving in lockstep, that we're, everything that we're doing has a purpose and we're moving together. And I live for that. I live for that concept, that idea, and to see it come out into reality and to really notice it. Kiara and Dirk, when you guys leave here, what's one thing that you want to set in motion for the next group of students, the next blind people coming and doing that journey?
What do you mean leave? I'm never leaving.
Oh, never leaving. Student forever. There it is. Student of life.
So one of the things that we are working on right now, because I know that one of the things that they instill in us in this program is to advocate for yourself. Mm-hmm. So the students have gotten together as one and kind of started to have these meetings where we can provide some input into what we receive in our program.
Yeah.
So we're trying to get student-led seminars. We're trying to get some activities where we can bond with our instructors, things like that. So it can be a little bit more tailored to the student. So I think that after we leave, hopefully we can have something kind of in place, maybe like a student body or something. So someone can have a voice, so they can advocate for themselves, so they can practice having those conversations with employees or employers or coworkers or things like that. Really problem solving, like just kind of like practicing it out.
Yeah.
So yeah, hopefully that'll be there.
Yeah, doing it in a safe space. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I don't even know how I can add to that because you basically covered kind of all of it. I think it's important that you guys have been willing to hear our feedback and have an open door policy where we can come into anybody's office at any time and voice our concerns or ideas that we have to possibly improve the program or add to the program. And you guys have been great at hearing us and letting us voice those opinions. And I hopefully, like Kiara said, I'm hoping that when we leave here, there's some type of like a regular, they've been calling, we dub it the town meetings where we kind of get together, once a week, once every other week or whatever to discuss these kind of things. So the program is more tailored, always willing to adapt with the different students that are there at the time. So, because everyone's at a different point when they come here.
Yeah.
So I think it's great to get everybody's feedback.
Needs are different too.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that does strike another really important facet of what we're doing here, right? That idea that everyone's here, and they're coming in at different places. I mean, you both are here and you both come in at different points of the year. And so it's different from that traditional idea of school where everyone comes in the spring or everyone comes in the fall and they're all at the same level. There's a lot of mentorship and growth that happens throughout the program. And I think that being dynamic and constantly evolving is huge in training because we are teaching you that, and it's something that we definitely strive to make sure that we are also channeling, right? So that we're practicing what we preach. And that idea of a mentorship and sort of leaving a succession plan, how do you feel like as you guys grow and become the senior students and you look at potentially having new students come in while you're here, how do you feel like you're going to step up and be mentors? Do you feel like that's something you're going to do?
Yeah. So whenever we have like the 2-day tours, I try to spend it because the only time I really get to see them is usually at the end of the day, unless they're in my class, unless they're in class with me. But I try to encourage them and tell them all the benefits of coming to the program and how challenging it can be, but how rewarding it is to overcome those challenges. And so I've kind of already tried to start doing it for the people that are interested in coming, to try and let them know this is definitely worth coming to. And I hope to be able to do that more and help you guys get some more people in here, because it's important for blind people to be able to have a place where they can come and get a wide range of skills and services. And with the mentorship, like your teachers know what it is to be blind and all the struggles you've gone through. So they're not like a psychiatrist or a psychologist that can help you on that level. But even talking to a psychologist about this, that if they don't know anyone blind or have never been blind, they really can't relate to it. They can tell you, oh, that's, that sounds awful. I'm sorry you're going through that. But they don't know what it's like to go through it. You complain to one of you guys and you'd be like, oh, I can tell you to fix that. Just turn voiceover on and do this, this, and this. And so I don't know. It's been really good for me.
Yeah.
So I kind of just got into the point where I've felt like a more senior student because like I said, I just started. So with the 2-day tours and stuff like that, like guiding them around the building and trying to like offer them advice or understanding. I think that's really helpful for me and for them. I want to be a therapist. So I think it's good practice for me. I have to tell a story. I'm sorry.
Oh, drop it on us.
Okay.
We love stories here.
So this was probably like my second week. I think it was like my second week, and it was one of our instructors' birthdays. So we went to Cross Street Market, right? It got dark pretty fast. And at the time, it got dark pretty fast. And like I said, travel is not my thing. And I was freaking out. Dirk was like leading the charge. She was like, we make a left here. We're going to go down the block. The bus is right there. I'm like, I'm never going to make it home. I'm like freaking out. But Dirk was so calm. You would have thought he was an instructor. And at the time, you were only here for like 4 months or so. At the time, I was like definitely cussing him out because I'm like, we just walked for 22 minutes. But thinking about that, like he completely got us home from Cross Street Market. You were so calm, you were confident in it, and then you were able to make sure multiple people were okay. You made sure that we were all staying together. That was a way that you showed your growth to someone who was new coming in. So even like it may not be something that you're cognizant of or aware of in the moment, it still can be a teaching moment. Yeah, I was definitely mad for like a week, but looking back on it, I'm thankful for that experience. Like that was very eye-opening.
Yeah. Oh. But leading by example is huge, and that's it, right? Like when you're in training and you're getting to a point where you just feel so comfortable with your skills, it becomes innate, and new people like Kiara in that situation get to this point where they're like, I'll never be like that person. You're like, yeah, you will. And a couple months later, they're like, I'm that person. I am him. I am her. Ooh, okay. This is the time. I love teaching people like new words. Sue, have you ever heard someone say I'm him, or like that person is her, like that's her or that's him?
I'm not sure the context, but I've frequently heard, I want to be like him, I want to be him. Listening to Dirk talk about wanting to be a travel instructor and remembering Mendoza as a student who's now a travel instructor here. So I've had the wonderful opportunity of seeing success, even with you. I remember you as a young student at Maryland School for the Blind. So I've been around long enough to see a lot of successes. So I'm not sure if that's the context you're using or if I missed it.
You're right on the money. So I started this with Mike during the podcast of this random slang, but yeah, like that's exactly it. Like I wouldn't be like him, or like he's him. So he's him would be like, this person is just epic. Like if you say like that person is him or that's her, like literally it's just like that person is so epic. They've got it together. They have taken the world by storm. And I want someone to one day be like, yeah, he's him. To me.
Oh, I think you are.
Oh, thank you, Sue. I've done it. I've already made it. I've made it.
You're the GOAT.
I've made it. I've made it. So as we wind down, I want to ask 2 questions. Sue, first, you. The first question is, what is the future for blind people? What is your future of blind success look like? And how do you see BISM playing a role in that and expanding that future?
I think that having a little more perspective, so much has changed since I was in school and transitioning. And, like Dirk said, he thought, oh, only I can work in a factory. I think the future for blind individuals is that we can do anything that we set our mind to doing. My line at Doors always was, I'll approve any career goal that doesn't involve, that's legal. So you can't drive, sorry, right now you can't drive and you can't fly a plane, but I will approve and support any career goal that is legal. And I think we just need to continue showing how we can be successful at anything. I think certainly technology has opened even more doors for us, and I think that BISM continues to help people see their abilities. It's wonderful hearing both of our students today talk about how they've been able to meet blind mentors and see more opportunities. And I think that's really, really important. And I think we need to make that opportunity more accessible to more people throughout the state. Because I think the best thing for a blind individual, particularly blind youth, is to meet and see successful blind adults. And also for parents of blind youth to see and meet successful blind adults, because unfortunately, sometimes the parents are the ones that hold their kids back because they're afraid. You can't cross the street. You can't use a knife. You can't use scissors. And I think that the NFB Parents Group does a great job in helping parents to see that blind children and youth can do anything with proper training. So I think that BISM has a role in continuing to open all of the doors for all of us with vision loss at all levels, and just educating the public and employers about what can be done.
That is important, and I want to be in your world, Sue. That is definitely what I want to see. Kiara, you have already expressed how important training has been to you so far and how much you've already grown. Let's rewind back to that first day of any new student, walking in the door, trepidation, fear, maybe some anger, resentment, and maybe just even the belief that unsure, not knowing what they're going to get from training. What is your message to that person, and what would be your message to your younger self in the sense of when you first started the program? What does that look like?
I would say do it scared. I know fear has held me back a lot going through all of this because I had no information, no guidance, nobody to talk to. So when you get here on that first day and you put those sleep shades on, just do it scared. It'll work out for the better. You're going to have people that are going to make sure you're okay. And then when you get to 3 months from now or 6 months from then, and you look back and you're like, how did I even get to this point? You're going to be proud that you did do it scared.
And Dirk, you, my man, are looking to continue the mission, going in and being an orientation and mobility instructor, teaching the next generations and the current generations of how to be an effective traveler while being blind. How do you feel that your experiences here are going to shape your teaching style, and what is going to be your biggest motivation when you kind of hit some of those roadblocks that you inevitably do hit as you learn a new thing and you try out a new path?
Yeah, good question. So, like you said, you guys have inspired me and made me want to, like you said, join the mission and help blind people become successful travelers, because orientation doesn't just end with getting out the door and going to the bus. You got to be able to, whether you're working in a kitchen, on a computer keyboard, everything's about orientation. And so if they're confident in traveling anywhere, then everything else will fall into place. If you can get down the street safely and get on a bus and cross 4 lanes of traffic, you can walk around your own house and cook your own meals and not need people to find ingredients for you or to turn the oven on or to do all the things that a lot of people just take for granted that can see just to hit the on button and do whatever. But the strategies that I've learned, or at least the techniques from my O&M, is that he's very good at staying very calm and cool and collected, and he seems like he knows. He's even told me, he's like, sometimes you just tell them Yeah, where do you think we are? Because he doesn't even know where we are quite. He knows roughly where we are, obviously, but like he may not know exactly where we are, and he'll just be like, "Yeah, so where are we?" And let them figure it out, and then we figure it out together. But like he never lets on, he never panics, he never gets frustrated with the students. And at least not that I've seen. I'm not saying everybody's perfect, but like that's how I want to try and make my students feel confident and comfortable to be able to safely and efficiently get through their space and get to where they need to get to where they need to go.
All of you are wonderful. You really help define what it means to be successful blind people. Kiara and Dirk, you guys are learning about that and learning about yourselves. And Sue, you have put many, many people in the position to be able to go down that journey. And so I really want to highlight to any blind person that's listening, it's possible, right? Life is so infinite. There's so many possibilities, and all it takes sometimes is that one step, that first step into trying something new, into gaining those skills. And for our sighted listeners, if you know someone that's blind, show them the podcast. Show them all of the wonderful blind people that we've had. Each episode, we've had a blind person in this room having conversations. And if you don't know a blind person, now you know now the impact that blind people are having on the world around you. You're understanding a little more about how blind people are really just people, and how we're living our lives and we're doing the same things that everyone else is doing, and we're trying our best to be successful and to be happy. I can tell you that Dirk and Kiara, you guys make me proud every day. I am not your immediate instructor anymore, but even here working in the youth department, I can determine how much you've grown simply because every time we're having these teenagers come in now, you guys are at the forefront of saying, I want to be there. I want to help them. I want to make sure that they know what the world can be for them. And that's huge to me. So thank you all for coming on the podcast. Thank you all for sharing your experiences. This has been the January episode of the Beyond Sight BISM podcast. Happy New Year's, everyone.
Are you a business or organization looking to support a mission that makes an impact? Partner with BISM and show your commitment to inclusion and accessibility through corporate sponsorships, event partnerships, or in-kind support. Your involvement can help us provide life-changing programs for individuals who are blind or have low vision. Together, we can break down barriers and create opportunities. Learn more about how your business can get involved. Visit bism.org/partners or reach out to our development team directly at partnerships@bism.org. Thank you.